Good morning.
Yes.
Just. Adjust the camera laptop.
Oh, God. Okay. Don't know what's going on with my hair.
Thank God for rotoscoping.
It's miserable here this morning. Well, not miserable. It could be worse, but it's cold and it's windy and it's rainy in Tasmania this morning. I think we're getting the tail of the cyclone that hit WA. Has that come across yet?
I haven't really paid any attention to that.
I paid attention because of the big numbers being quoted. Yes, it's a Twinings Defence Tea.
Defence?
That's what they call it.
What, only for military people?
No, like...
Is it stolen valour, me drinking this?
It says defence on the back. No, like vitamin C, citrus, something else that's meant to help you. Because we're still a bit sniffly. Well, I am.
We're going to have this disease forever.
Anyway.
We're in the...
No, I only paid attention to the cyclone because of the giant numbers they were putting in the headlines, like 270 kilometre an hour winds predicted and that kind of shit. And they hit 197, I think.
That's what I was going to say. Is this something that we should
Sorry.
take seriously or not in this day and age?
What was Cyclone Tracy?
No idea.
No, me either.
In the 70s.
No, number-wise.
I don't know. You'd have to have a look.
Yeah.
Again, all those sort of things, you can have different outcomes of smaller cyclones because of the different buildings. Like if half the town was a ramshackle, well, you know.
What's like in, which you've never seen, and I did download the other day, Twister, in that movie. There's different categories, obviously, everyone knows that. But in terms of the shapes, too, if it's a big, fat, wide thing and it's a skinny thing versus the trail of destruction that it leaves.
Where it hits, how it hits, what the nature of the buildings are where it hits, all those sorts of things.
I've never experienced that. I hope not to, but I've had willy willies here.
They used to be where I grew up, too. I got tossed off my bike once.
Oh, really? No, never had that. Anywho.
Yeah. Anyway... So we were talking about...
We were having a tea discussion.
Having a tea discussion off camera, and it was almost to the point of like, this might...
might be interesting.
Might be interesting.
Not sure.
Interesting to the level of what we have. And this one will be fraught with danger and stepping around people's names and...
Trying to,
not identify anyone. Because, it was interesting just discussing... maintaining friendships or forming new acquaintances when you're us.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. So, which does get to the point of this podcast in terms of, obnoxious, childless 40-somethings in a state they quite frankly don't belong in. And trying to find peers to associate with, and whether or not you even want to associate with anyone. And
I'm more private than you, so, and that
you care more. I don't think it's a question with me. I don't think it's a question of privacy.
Which is interesting that I'm on a podcast.
Yeah, discussing this, but we're quasi-anonymous.
That's why I will.
Anyway,
think about what I say.
Yeah, and I should too for a change. It's not that I'm more or less private than you, it's that I care less. Mm-mm. Like if somebody asks me, because so often I get in trouble for, someone does ask me a question that other people may consider either rude or crass, and which comes up all the time in our favourite discussion topic, that goddamn attack surface, bar. And... oh, how's it going? What are you doing? Has it always been your dream? And all those sorts of things. And generally, we'll answer... See, funnily enough, we'll answer honestly about that and you don't have a problem with it. And if anything, I'd say you're more brutally honest about that. It's like, no, it wasn't always my dream.
No, I fib.
No, it's doing fine. Or yes, it's doing wonderfully.
It depends. And again, this is getting into the realm of too much information that I don't want to put in a public sphere. Because again, I am more private than you.
Which I'm going to come back to.
It depends what mood I'm in as to what answer I give. Because I will either play the social cues with you and go, yeah, it's great, you? Like, I always try and flip it to the other person. Because people love talking about themselves.
They do.
Or I will just simply ignore it and change the topic.
Oh, the irony about how you're more socially retarded than the guy with the PhD in computer science
I have
is.
said this. It's always I don't like people. 95% of people I don't like.
Well, getting back to the point was,
Anyway.
or not so much the point of what I was going to say, because what you said was on point, is it's not so much that I'm more or less private, and this is the science thing. I'm actually more... I like a lot more noise to the signal. So you'll prefer no signal. Like, I'm not telling you anything. And if anything, taking a very electromagnetic view of human interaction. I'll talk about a whole bunch of things, and most of it's I don't care. And I've always been pretty open if people ask me a straight question, even if it's by all intents and measures rude, but if I think they're pretty honest when they're answering it, and add alcohol, and it does tend to make them more honest when they're, and I'm aware of that, and again, like you, if I feel like answering it, I was like, oh yeah, this is how much money I'm worth, thereabouts. I'm not sure, from here to here, roughly.
Whereas I have a handful of people that I will answer that question for, truthfully.
Yeah.
And to get to that point of being in that handful of people, you will have had to jump over certain hurdles.
But what's amusing with me like that, which
because
I
it's
find,
none of your fucking business.
There's absolutely that.
And I don't know you, and why are you asking me that question?
And I'll answer the answer.
And what do I get out of it if I answer it?
All social interactions are transactional, which we'll come back to. But that's my point, where I say, I don't care, and I know 9 times out of 10, and this is me running, I'm constantly in contravention of the Nuremberg laws. All I do is experiment on humans. And when someone asks me a question like that, and I can see they're a little bit drunk, and I can also see that they're utterly harmless, and being, let's be brutally honest, dear listener, someone I also go, they're totally beneath me anyway, I don't give a shit. It's like, I'm going to give them a straight answer that is absolutely true and fairly accurate as I can, but I'm going to give them a truthful answer, and I know that it's going to piss them off, and they're going to go, oh, you're full of shit. And the hilarity of it is that I'm not worth that much money. I'm not all that wealthy.
No.
By our standards,
inconsequential.
We do not have money to effect genuine power.
I'd love
or
to.
all these sorts of things. What we have,
with power comes great responsibility.
No, with power, no,
comes
not
great fun.
No, with power comes absolutely no responsibility whatsoever, up to a point, and then there's a whole pile of responsibility.
Then there's a ball of flames. Yeah.
Oh, then there's a trip to Epstein Island, and the cameras. Then everywhere you go, the cameras stop working. But that just shows the thing. It's like.
But that's why are they asking it in the first place? That's immediately where I go, why are you asking me this question? You're just being a dick. You're probing for information that you want, because we're not prepared to give you.
Yeah, I'm not going to just, because I'm more, the thing that we were talking about was more interesting about how we actually like trying to maintain acquaintances and relationships things, which we will get back to.
Yeah.
But just talking about the stupid bar thing for a moment, I think there's a fairly standard cross-examination that occurs with people like that. They see some well-dressed, because usually some well-dressed dickhead hanging around this bar carrying on like he owns the place.
Because he does.
And then they ask me, oh, do you own the place? And I go, yeah. And they're going, oh, how's it going? And I'll usually these days I'll go, yeah, fine, thanks.
Yeah.
And then they'll go, oh, this is really cool. Has it always been your dream? Not really. And I usually add, especially if I'm shining them on to be an asshole, or not. Sometimes genuinely, but I'll just say, and it's true. Like this is it's a bit of a hobby.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a hobby.
Big boy's toy, a bit of a hobby.
Big boy's toy, or a bit of a hobby like that. Especially if I've had a couple of drinks and I've forgotten who I'm talking to.
Which it is, because we can turn it off at any point and not give a shit.
And it doesn't make any difference, right?
Yeah.
And except I refuse to, as listeners of this podcast, all 3 of you know that this is just going to be a constant theme until finally we do the podcast around podcast 720. I finally shot that fucking thing in the face.
Anyway.
Yeah, and
it's a
you say
general
so you say it
social
you say it's a big boy's toy, and then all of a sudden, then the real questions come. Then, huh? And then the questions come about.
What do you do?
What do you do?
Yeah.
And I
don't
like
have an
you.
answer for that.
I always find that an obnoxious question, because that's also a very Sydney question. Because you all sit down at a dinner party, because it's a Sydney thing, and you all feel each other out by going, we need to establish a pecking order, and the pecking order is, what do you do?
Yeah.
And we've always, well, certainly me, I've always said, because that's where usually I go, I don't want to tell you, because and the times when I've actually been in a bit of a mood and I have answered with, I don't want to tell you. And they've gone, why not? Do you sell meth or something? And it's going to go, no, because we're going to go into a conversation where I'm going to ask you, because this one I can tell they're being like they are trying to, am I more higher or lower than you in the social stratum? Yeah, and it's like, I'm not interested, because you're either not going to believe me what I'm going to do. I can't be fucked explaining it to you. It's not what I do
don't fit
isn't
in a box.
Yeah, it doesn't fit in a box. It's not one of the tiles on the game of life. And quite frankly, I know where this conversation's going to head. So let's just skip to the end where you go.
Bored already.
You're a prick, and I try, and I don't do that very often.
No, neither do I.
But I've heard that from somebody else who might, that may or may not be an investor of mine from Sydney, whose name starts with a T, that he has the same problem, and he sort of regales once where he was sort of saying he was at a wedding. At maybe his wedding, or at somebody, or he's a best man at another wedding, something like that sort of function. And someone said, "Hands up, who knows what T does for a living?" And
I would punch that first person in the face, because that is clearly not.
But it was in a. I got the impression it was appropriate. Like there was a context where that was appropriate.
Cool.
So let's set your trigger
Go fuck
mechanisms.
yourself. If someone just stands up in the middle of a wedding and goes, try and guess what she does for a living, I'd be like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
I'm going to. Yeah. No. Anyway. All right.
Yeah.
So there was.
I fuck your mother.
Yeah,
That's what I do for a living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're trying to embarrass me in front of all these people.
Yeah. No, so it was
okay. It was appropriate.
Cool. I can't remember, but there was some context where it was, and it was hard to explain. And generally, you'd just say hilariously, but I don't agree with. It's just like, I'm a businessman.
Yeah.
Which I always think is
dumb it down.
The spivviest answer. You know.
What business? Oh God.
Import export. You know, and before you know it, you end up on a watch list.
Yeah.
You know.
Anywho, but so we were talking about because I don't know anyone here, and I don't think I care to.
And we have tried on several occasions to maintain or foster a convivial relationship with other.
But cultural differences is line that we use constantly.
And you keep butting into people. Because we actually... One is like, why do you want to? And there is a social thing. I'm a
human.
Yeah, I'm a human.
I do need interactions.
I
don't need as many as you.
No, I think you don't realise how many. I think you need the same amount, but you cope without it, or...
I've got a dog.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Either or. But when we actually sit down and think about the amount of times that we have had people around for... dinner, or we've gone out to dinner with them, it's not zero.
No.
And you think, but I'd say the big cultural difference to begin with, I don't know if Tassies do that. So that's the first thing. So I don't know. I haven't seen that many. Because
we were talking about this morning, because I said the first... So you meet, you might... For example, someone in the bar, and you've met them and you enjoy their company, and and then the immediate step there is, can I come to your house? And that's like, come to my house. And I'm like, no, I don't want you in my house yet. The next step for me would be, let's catch up for coffee, drink, lunch, or dinner. Like let's meet in a public place. Because...
You're just not down to fuck as quickly as what I am.
No.
And in a
dinner environment, yes.
Yes.
But no, again, why do you want to come to my house? I don't want you in my house. Can I come to your house?
And the answer to that is probably yeah.
So,
but that's a problem for us because we're snobs. Is if you go to somebody else's house, very quickly do you go, oh.
I live in a construction zone still.
Yes.
I have a couple of nice rooms, but the rest of it is still underworks. So that's also one thing.
That is that is a different thing and that, funnily enough, is a. God, this is a self-indulgent podcast. We did think there was something.
But we're getting to the interesting bit.
Yeah, we thought there was some interesting bits, so just bear with us. But it's like, I think one of the things that we have with other couples or other people, like, let's just assume people, couples, whatever, humans, other like acquaintances that you may wish to foster into some sort of friendship, is that I think a lot of them don't get what we're doing. So they don't understand what we do for a living. Not much. And then a lot of the things we do don't make a lot of sense on the surface compared to our attitude.
Which is what I mentioned this morning.
Yeah.
That I will look down my nose at people because I am from a certain class, but my class is not reflected in my surroundings at this point in time.
It's not immediately apparent when you...
And I dress like an asshole.
Well, because we're still working on this house that we're building out here in this thing, and that's why I'm trying to get the house compound paddock to look more like what it should be. Is you drive in and you go, oh wow, okay, there's this glass and steel monstrosity over there that's okay, that's a bit interesting, and green grass and machinery sheds, and like it to make it look like a
We've started
homestead.
With a forest clearing in the middle of Tasmania, and we've had to build everything. There
is
literally nothing here.
And it's a
no
10-year
power,
project.
No sewage, no water.
Nothing.
Like, it's not a suburban block. We are literally in the middle of nowhere.
No, it's 212
with nothing,
acres.
With nothing.
Yeah. And in 5 years? How long have I been building this full time? Less than 4 years full time.
Yeah.
We've gone from
We're
nothing.
in year 4.
Yeah. We've gone from a forest clearing.
Like nothing here.
To a house.
Functioning house.
To the upstairs of this house rivals any...
You could think you're in an apartment somewhere.
Yeah, any 5-star apartment anywhere.
A little bit more dishes in the sink at the moment, but excuse that.
And I've got to get some doors on the kitchen and do the splashback. But that's the thing we're still doing. So it requires... Yeah, so again, I suppose there is a little bit of...
We don't make sense.
We've got a little bit of cognitive dissonance is like people think...
But why does it matter? That's what my back goes up. Like, why does it matter? Like...
Yeah,
I can afford to pay for my drink. Are you like, it's fine. It's not like I'm going out and going, oh, buy me dinner. Like, I'm not...
Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those... Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, so we were talking about, how to... Because
we were interested in how we could... So anyway, I suppose the point we were making there is that you need to have a bit of a deeper understanding of us for us to make sense. Because I've also had pushback with that where people... They ask you some questions about, like, what are you doing? Like, basically where they are feeling you out for, like, who are you, what do you do, what are you worth, all those sorts of things. Which I find more reasonable than you do to a point. But only to a point. Because it's like, it's just a part of the social interaction. They're trying to figure out, are these people, who is this rudderless hippie, does he have a hunting knife strapped to his shin?
I never know what you're quoting.
That's Black Books. Yeah. And
you just do the dance, whereas I don't do the dance.
I'm more inclined to than you are. Again, ironically. But so they'll get that particular impression, and then I'll walk out and I'll get into old Gertie, like my old YouTuber, and they're going, this guy's completely full of shit. And it's just like... I don't care, mate. Make your own fucking mind up.
So my thing for that, as I said, I dress like an asshole. I dress like a scruff bag most of the time.
Because we're working in a fucking
with
forest clearing.
Jeans and a baseball cap on, and my hair tied back. The minute that I get invited to anything, which I never do, but
because of our personalities,
probably. But again, people don't seem to do that here. That's another cultural thing we were talking about. There's no reciprocation.
There's definitely no reciprocation. So
I will do my hair and put makeup on and put one of my nice dresses on, and people go, "Oh, geez," and they go, "Oh." Like one of the bartenders once, when I walked into the bar to check on that everything's all right, I walk in and I'm done, like I'm got my outdoor outfit on. Oh, I went, "What? You've never seen me with my hair done, have you?" And he's like, "Nah."
And that's why I try to, when I come and go in the bar, but likely when I go into the bar, and lately, and I'm going to continue to do it, I dress well.
Yes, whereas I go the opposite. I like being underestimated in the bar because I don't want to talk to people. They just think I'm a bar bitch.
Hilariously, as a man, if I'm better dressed...
Yeah.
If I'm properly,
they less talk to you.
They less talk to me.
Yeah.
like
Whereas
if
it's
I
the
wear,
opposite way
so
around for
maybe
a chick.
to tonight, do I actually wear a suit, an actual suit, rather than just
So that has always made me laugh.
veterinarian chic.
The odd time where I am actually behind the bar because my bartender's having the fucking day off or whatever, I will dress like a bar bitch and have my hair all pulled up and no makeup, because I don't wear makeup really anyway. But yes, and then when they try and do something and the bar guy goes, "No, she's the boss," and they go, "Ha ha ha," and they go, "No, she's the licensee and the boss," and I go, "Yeah, I own the place," and they are so completely and utterly stunned that it usually takes the wind out of their sails, because I'm just some bar bitch in black picking up glasses.
But I had that with one of that other mole that is still on the...
Until
recently.
I get my bitch voice on. Yeah.
Said you need to tell, which it was obviously there, you need to tell your boss that she needs more, something like that.
So yeah, dude.
It's like, oh, Christ.
She is the boss.
Anyway, the whole point isn't talking about it. But that's where, like, the bar is a social outlet, and that was one of the things it was designed to do. But unfortunately, the social people we're getting in...
90% of the people aren't our peers or aren't interesting.
No, they're not.
Because as I said, they don't understand us because we're not in the box. So we're 40-somethings who don't work a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah, let's get to the point. Yeah.
We have no children. We have moved states to live on a rural property.
Yeah. Which we're building from scratch.
Which is off-grid, which a lot of people don't get either. What else makes us different?
Well-travelled.
Yeah.
Educated within...
Well-travelled.
Educated to the point of complete unemployability.
You, maybe. Me, not so much. Yeah, just...
Yeah.
And... some of those, because I think some of those things would work if you're either in an older age bracket too. Because, a lot of old farts do tree changes and that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah.
So trying to foster some kind of thing is interesting and...
Yeah, it's interesting. So we find... Yeah, so anyway, so I guess in summary there, we find that we don't really fit the mold. Like, yeah, we don't fit the mold in any way, and we also don't fit the mold of wealthy people. Really?
No. I'm not sipping pina coladas by a beach. Just
but we
doing
could
nothing,
any time we wanted to.
Yeah. I'm not a layabout.
Yeah.
I didn't inherit all my money, which is another question we were talking about. Fuck, it's like,
and I do not sell drugs.
And we don't sell drugs.
Yeah.
That's
technically gambling and alcohol.
They're legal. It's fine. Illegal drugs. People, because again, that's immediately what people go to. You either you got given all your money, or you. But that's illegal.
Where, like I was arguing on Twitter. That's the difference between where I'm sort of, when you sort of say to people and people go, "Oh, this is wrong," and you just go, "No, here's what you need to do. You need to decide what you want. That's the most important thing. You need to decide what you want, and then you need to work out various strategies in which to get what you want. Work out how long it's going to take you to get there, and then progressively work through the time, evaluating whether or not it's working, and then if it's not, change to one of the other scenarios that you had. Yeah, make a tactical change to something else to continue to head in the right direction. It's a war. You need to...
we're on the same page, because, I don't get it. It's not
hard. And
your
point, and so often, which like, again, is slightly aside, is that you say, no, you have to, like, no, and you give them an example. Here's the thing, like, tell me what you want to do and I'll give you some advice, and all the rest of it, and all you just get back is, fuck you. And I go, well, all right, well, you just keep
smashing it at life.
You just keep smashing it at life. I'm going to... So
they get annoyed because you're like, because we are doing that. i.e., I don't work for anyone. I'm not an employee. And then they continue to ask questions about, oh, how did you do this and how did you do that? It's like, you're not even listening to what I'm saying, so I'm not going to talk to you.
I don't even get that. See, that's fine. If people were asking me questions about things like that and it was genuine, I will talk to you all day long.
You will.
But I
won't. Depends.
Like the point that I sort of made on Twitter before, or the statement that I sort of made, is like, this is what I've done this week. I've mostly spent this week pottering around on my 200 acres in my $100,000 excavator doing some fencing. Today, once I've finished talking on this podcast, I'm going to go into town and go and potter about on my yacht at the marina. Then later on afterwards, I'm going to go and work out for a couple of hours, and then I'm going to go to my small bar
that I own
and have a drink.
Rent. Yeah.
I own all of these things. None of my businesses pay rent. I have
rent.
Like, none of my businesses pay rent. Like, every business, like the bar, we own the premises that the bar's in.
Oh, right.
Like,
they pay
work
rent,
with me.
but
yes, work with
we're not
me.
renters.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Right.
Renters is a derogatory term in my... Sorry. Yes.
You make the fucking point, wife. Jesus Christ. I was just saying... So let me start again. I've spent most of the week pottering about my farm using heavy machinery.
You're using the wrong words. You own everything. That's it. Full stop.
This is where I do what you do to me.
What?
I'm trying to say something. You've interrupted me 3 times.
Well, hurry up.
Ah, fuck me. Dead. The 4th wife. This is where I'm putting all of my effort. The point I was trying to make is that at the end of it, yeah, my businesses don't rent what they're in.
Uh-huh.
I have no debt.
Uh-huh.
Ah, you fucked it.
Come on.
No, I've completely lost it. No, I've completely lost it. Let's restart what we were... I can't remember what the point is.
You were talking about what you did today on Twitter, the statement that you had made.
Right. The point I was trying to make with these people, I need to take it a little bit step further. The point is with these people that don't want to listen to you, just want to argue with you, just want to be belligerent, like you're being, but in a different way, is... So this is what I did this week.
Yep.
And that's what I was trying to explain.
Actually what I did,
and if you just shut up for 30 seconds, I potted around on my 200 acres using heavy machinery. I own all of that. I'm going to go to my yacht today and potter around on that in the marina. Then I'm going to have a drink in my small bar after working out. All of my businesses are in properties that I own, and I have no debt.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't work.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to...
And you don't believe me.
And you don't believe me. You ask the question, then you don't like the answer, then you don't believe me, and then I don't
talk to people.
And then I just go, well, but this is the difference between me. When I was 20 and I saw 45-year-olds, 47-year-olds, with... Because I can remember the conversations I had right now in my head, and I could give examples. There's a guy that had a place in Surrey Hills I was talking about, and the thing is, how'd you get that?
There's a couple of people that have done that to you, though, remember here?
Maybe one.
Jim Guy was always pumping you for information.
Yeah, that's a point. I'll come back to that.
There's one.
And
he actually listened.
Yeah. So anyway, the point that I was making was that I was inquisitive, and I certainly didn't take it in terms of... It's like, I like where you... I'm seeing things I like where you are. How did you get there? Mm-hmm. And asking respectful, though probing questions about... When did you get that? Where did you manage that? How did you... Oh, okay, cool. Wow. And also I remember saying, especially this one guy in particular, just going, wow, okay, cool. Well done.
But
I wonder if that's still... Is that still
the change in society, though?
I don't know. I think that might... At the very least, that's a sample space of one, and I was always... And I remember actually making a...
I know everything because of the device in my hand.
What I was going to say was that I was going to say, is it just a difference where I was different in attitude? Because I remember even back then saying the difference between like Australians and Americans was that someone turns up with a really flash car, really nice car, and an American will say...
I don't want to interrupt you, so I'm not sure if I'm allowed to talk.
Permission to speak in a moment?
Not Americans, Asian cultures. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I'm trying to. Should we do it again? No, we're going to learn. We're going to learn from this and possibly do it in public.
You're so frustrating to talk to. Keep going.
No, I wasn't mentioning Asians at all. That would be the next thing.
Okay, keep going. Flash car, American.
The difference between Australians and Americans was that someone turns up in a flash car and an American says, "How did you buy that?" where an Australian runs their keys down the side of it. And the point that I was trying to say was that, was I different? Because back then that was an anecdote or a metaphor, a simile, an expression, an example that I used back in the 90s to say the difference between, like, even then I understood the difference between, like, I suppose what you would call tall poppy syndrome and a more entrepreneurial culture. And that's why I was going to say, which you're quite right, like, everybody knows everything because of this now, but it was a problem back then too. Because I do really clearly remember having that view and explaining that to people. So was I more like, as you say, the Asian entrepreneurs, like the difference between people who are fucking poor and those that are wealthy are those that...
That's not what I was going to say.
I know. And did you think that's what I was going to say? Anyway, let's not argue, but you're not allowed to argue. But what I was just going to say is, if you let me...
bite your finger off if you pointed at me one more time.
I did that for effect, and it worked. This is how well
we know each other.
This is just changing the terms on last time. So let's reset the conversation slightly and continue talking. It's just like we've both got to learn not to interrupt each other as much on this.
You just repeat yourself over and over. Button pushed.
No, I'm trying to make a point, and it said, like with that one, this is where we're entering the housekeeping phase of this just for a second, which is just like going, no, I wasn't mentioning Asians at all, and if you let me get to the end of it, I'll do it. But yes, you need to be more patient with the way I talk. It's only been 13... No.
Years?
Yeah, it's only been 12 years or something, so yeah, like just settle. Right, so let's continue. Being mindful of both of us not interrupting each other until we've finished the conversation.
Well, taking your anecdote... I suppose it is. I would have said that if someone turns up with a flash car, the American says, "This is how much I paid for this." The Asian person congratulates you and says, "Well done." They don't even ask, and the Australian runs their keys down the side. Because there's a cultural difference all between the three of them.
I would say the American one would be... I'd say the American and the Asian are the same, and would be both of those things. Would ask, how much did you pay for it? Where did you get it? How did you get it?
Don't know.
But anyway, so my point was that I think it was still... I don't think things have changed culturally that much. I just think, hilariously, what someone... It was one of the comedians I follow said, these have turned everybody into Hollywood. Has turned the world into Hollywood, and now everybody is a narcissist worried about their next show. And I thought that was very, very insightful.
Well, that's the other point that I would put into the mix, is that people... I was going to say people are less honest because they only put up shit that's like they're trying to present to the world this perfect picture of themselves. And life isn't perfect.
We certainly don't do that.
And so maybe that's why, because, well, no, honest. And I don't mean perfect. I don't know what I'm trying to say. You answer question. What I'm saying is when people interact with us, which might be half the problem, when people interact with us, we're quite honest in our response to them.
If you choose to respond.
If I choose to respond, yes,
I
will be quite honest. Money, I'm not really, but I will be if I know you really well. That's probably the only area. Or money and relationships, maybe. Like I won't answer questions about you. Go fuck yourself. It's none of your business. If someone was asking me, no one has. I don't think. I don't know. People are scared of me. They don't talk to me. It's hilarious. But yeah, people aren't as honest in their responses. You and I are a bit more of an open book when it comes to that.
You and I don't care about...
I can't be cancelled. Maybe that's what you're talking about, the Hollywood thing. I can't be cancelled.
You and I can't be... aren't worried about being cancelled. And as a side effect of that, I don't think it's even that deep. It's just like at the end of it, you could also say your opinion matters not that. When the rubber hits the road, your opinion doesn't matter. And I don't mean that in a bad way.
No.
It's just like if somebody has an opinion of us that's poor, well, you're very entitled to that opinion, and so.
Yeah. I think that comes back to the other thing we were talking about, is that I think I've said this before on here. The only person who can fix your shit is you. Like, you can ask someone else a question and get some advice, but if you don't listen or take the advice or decide no one's going to help you. You've got to fix your own shit.
People can help you, but unless you decide you want your fix, until you at least decide that you've got a problem, whether you do or you don't, or you want to change something or whatever.
You can ask for help.
Yeah, sure. And if you've asked for help, you would expect that you've already decided, I have a problem that I need some help with. But again, we're getting off topic, but we are being more patient with each other's responses.
But yes, adult friendships is interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, as an insight into us, I suppose if nothing else, people can comment and saying, based on your discussion with each other alone, we can see why people don't want to spend any time with you. But I don't know, but that's a joke. But
I'm good with that.
So am I in general as well, but it's like where we have been accused of being antisocial lumps, it's like and like what, and I suppose the other thing is like, what are you looking out of it, and what would I look out of? Yeah, just to maintain sort of, it'd be interesting to have some sort of convivial relationship with some other people, and you can get together, and it can be, and largely superficial, like, go out and have, it's nice occasionally to go and be with your own kind, and have a drink and go to dinner and
chit chat.
And do you want to go and, we're going to do this next week, are you interested? Do you want to come along?
Yeah.
And there are a few people we can do that with, and again, I'll leave names out of it and see if you figure it out, but they tend to be single, and they tend to have some fatal flaw. And I don't mean that negatively, but for example, then you'll know who I'm talking about. It's like, the guy, he's like, I come to this and all the rest of it. Oh, yeah, that'd be interesting and all the rest of it. And, it's like, dude, like I'm like a dozen years older than you and you live with your parents. Like, we're not really going to...
I don't know who that is. Yeah.
This is where you need to... this is where I go off camera and go... You don't do sign language, do you?
No! I'm fine. I don't care who it is. I don't need to know.
Short name starts with a D.
Still have no idea who you're talking about.
Okay.
Anyway.
But anyway, we'll take my word for it. I'll explain to you afterwards. But but it's just like, you're not. Yeah, I like you and I enjoy having a drink with you, and I do relatively often late at night, and I enjoy going to strip clubs with you, and
right.
Christ Almighty, I'm gonna have to. I spelt it out. I've mouthed it. But like, so there is examples like, so in a lot of ways, like that guy would be a peer. But then in a lot of ways, no, because there's no cultural touchstones.
Yeah, I don't
really.
know.
So, but as usual, I think our conversation off camera was much more interesting than on camera, and on camera we've just basically bollocksed it. But we'll continue to fight forward. So yeah, I don't know. But anyway, the other thing that was funny is like where I was sort of getting back to where we said we have gone out with other couples, and they never reciprocate.
So
And that's weird. That's
my
odd.
expectations are that once every couple of months you would have, and they don't have to be a couple either. You can be a single person,
Yeah.
because when I was a single person for many, many years,
We wonder why.
fuck off, for good reason on both fronts.
Very good reason.
But again, I think you have to be comfortable enough in your own skin to go and spend time with another group or couple, and you're not fussed about being on your own. But once every couple of months, surely someone who's even single or a couple, you can get together with another 2 or 1 person and have dinner and drinks for a couple of hours and keep your shit together, because you've been to a couple of things where people haven't kept their shit together either.
That's unbelievable.
And then do it all again,
So
and
that's-
reciprocate, because that's the other thing. It's which I think I said to you this morning. I know you're trying not to interrupt me. I am always the person who organises shit, because I'm organised and I like to put things in my calendar and blah blah blah. And I did that for years and years and years, and I was always the one making an effort. And then I realised there's 3 people that reciprocate. The rest of them, nothing. So now I do things with 3 people because it was a waste of my time.
So there's probably 2 things there. The first thing I'd say, to the end point there, is that, pardon me, the theme I'm getting is that you're more comfortable when you organise it.
But I get annoyed if I have to organise it all the time.
So, even though you prefer to organise it.
No.
All right. Okay. All right. Accept it. And the first thing
It would
is,
be a nice change if someone organised something.
yeah. But the first thing, and the bigger point, which is also the main difference, is that it's hard to find peers here, because everybody. So basically, I think you need 3 things for it to work for us at a bare minimum. You have to have enough money, you have to have enough time, and you probably have no kids.
Which is why I was saying the older bracket.
But you can solve the no kids with the having enough money.
Yes, generally.
And because that has happened so often.
Babysitters are a thing, right?
Fucking au pairs are a thing.
Yeah,
like, it
that's
depends
what I
on
mean.
if this is just
find
like
someone
relative
to look after them for an hour.
parents or something, and wanting to, like, also, because it is always refreshing when you do get the people that you do know and you like, when you just go, oh, they're fucking idiots. Like, I can't stand them. Jesus Christ.
And they're their own children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're going, oh, good, it wasn't just me thinking that. Excellent. But there's so many people that have the oh no, we've got to spend time with the children, and then straight away you just go, yeah, we're not going to get on. Like you need to have, unless you have an almost adversarial relationship with your offspring. It's like, and obviously they don't.
Not
But they've got to be
adversarial.
but they've got to be easygoing with them.
Yeah, and know where their place is. They're not up here. The children meant to fit in with your lifestyle, not the other way around.
Allow me to make a point to you, though, but you're like that with your fucking dog.
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah, and that's a problem.
But I can leave him at home, it's fine.
I can legally kill him.
But yeah.
So, yeah. But that's the thing, like, so often where I've had people, well, we go, well, do you want to come and do this, and do you want to come and do that, and like all those sorts of things. And when the rubber hits the road, I don't know, are they trying to get out of it? But so often here I just think,
Pub talk?
yeah, whether it was pub talk and then they want to get out of it, and that's fine, and that's how often I just go, oh yeah, okay, yep, that's fine, no problem. But the other ones, you've just told me how much free time you've got, or like, you've painted me a picture of somebody who is in a position to be able to go and do something, like, do you want to go and have dinner next week at so and so, and then
And then you can't.
And then you can't for whatever reason, and again I start sniffing, you can't afford to, which is what it basically comes down to. Because I think all those other problems, time and children and all those other problems, can be solved with money. And
I think that's my new response to people when they say, what do you do? I am in a position of fuck you, from the John Goodman thing. But then that'll rile people up as well. I'm unemployed. That'll do it.
But that riles people up as well. Because I do that as a joke, and I go, I'm unemployed and I live in a shipping container. True. Absolutely true. You know?
I don't know.
But as we discussed the other thing, being crass, unemployed, like genuinely unemployed, and absolutely living in a shipping container in last financial year, I still managed to make 6 figures.
Technically, I'm not unemployed.
Technically, I'm not unemployed either, but but by the ABS definition, we are. Are you in a position where you can take a full-time job?
No.
No. What was the other thing?
More than 1 hour.
More than 1 hour a week, and if you were, and under normal circumstances, you would probably say that you're not working. Like you could pick any week in a month, and you could possibly, if you didn't want to, you could certainly answer, did you do an hour's work a week? No. Can you go and do a full-time job if you want to?
Oh, no.
And are you actively looking for work? No.
No, the hour I can't. Every week I do something to do with the bar for more than an hour, and I have to do it. Payroll.
No, you don't have to do it.
Yeah, I do.
No, we can turn the bar off anytime you want.
I was going to say not pay people. Yeah, I have to pay people. Yeah. Yes. Anyway, back to adult friendships in the age of 40-something with no children. Yes. If anyone's local and fits all those bills, do you tick the boxes?
We're not looking to date another couple.
Again, no.
Been there, done that. Got the T-shirt, but
and I think the other thing, sorry, cut you off slightly, is that
I finished.
I'm interested in talking to interesting people. I'm genuinely interested in you if you're interesting.
And we have done things to try and do that, where we wanted to maintain links to the local thing. You went to a book club at one point, and that fizzled out. We joined the local fire brigade, and that's fizzled out. We opened the bar, and I wish that would fizzle out, but we didn't open the bar for a social outlet.
I haven't joined any progress associations or anything like that, because
you wouldn't last a second.
No, they don't want me because. Yeah.
Well, that's what happens every time you
I'll end up running it again.
Yeah, and that's what happens. Like using the fire brigade as an example. You know, you go along and there's just all these people, and you go, and straight away you're the out of towners you're the well-heeled out of towners, and here, which maybe gets back to my American versus Australian anecdote. That's how they treat you.
And they don't like it.
And it's just like...
chip on their shoulders.
Yeah, and it is literally that. Do you want some salsa for that chip on your shoulder there, buddy? Yeah. Because I've done nothing...
I've been polite and conversational and amicable. Like, I have not walked in here with airs or graces, and yet you still give me this attitude of, go fuck yourself. It's like, all right, go fuck me, go fuck you.
Yeah.
But...
And it's not even that, just whatever.
I don't even think about you, I'm sorry. Who? When?
Yeah. Because we even got things like, why did you join? And it's like, because we own hundreds of acres here, and if there's a fire, we should pitch in and help, and we should know how to do it and all the rest of it. And that is just like showing a dog a card trick to all of them.
Yeah, they don't get it.
And they don't get it. And it's like, okay, and then you have your time wasted, which we did have onto a separate group. We had our time wasted on several occasions, like just flat out, by any objective measure, you've wasted our time.
Yes.
You need to be here
in a nutshell, go.
You need to be here on Sunday morning at this time early, and you turn up and nothing's ready, nothing's organised, and you stand there for an hour, and it's like, I'm going.
I was going to say, usually it's 15 minutes for me, and we gave it 45 minutes to an hour, and I went, I am leaving.
Yeah, and then we haven't really been back since.
Yeah.
And that happened on a couple of occasions. They went and got
coffee. I saw them all walk off to go and get coffee, and I went, that's it. Yeah. I'm done. I got out of bed early to get here.
And that again, that's a bless them, a class difference, and I mean a professional class difference. My time is $400 an hour plus GST. And that's not my 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning time. I don't know if I have a 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning time. And
Naomi it'll be Campbell time. I don't get out of bed for what was it, less than 10 grand an hour or something?
It was like...
I'm not even that, but Sunday morning.
Yeah, no.
But it's not even that. Like, it could be any time. If you tell me a time and a place and something's going to occur, I expect the time and the place and that thing to occur.
And that's the level of fuck you that we're at, is that literally tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, if you wanted me to be at Campbelltown and you offered me $5,000, I'd go and had a driver come and pick me up, and I'd say no.
So, yeah. No, thank you. But anyway, yeah. So we'll have to...
Position of fuck you with opportunity cost.
Feel
I have a
free
high...
to put comments about...
Yeah, so anyway, getting back to the point, I can't even remember what we were discussing beforehand.
How do you make...
Yeah. And it's not all... And it's really not all about... Any of that... We've constantly talked about money, this podcast. Constantly. And it's not really about... And we've also talked a little bit about class. And it's not... I genuinely don't think it's about that. Yes, attitude. Yes, maybe you're right. Well done. Yes, it's about attitude.
Because well, I don't. You know what I was just about to say. I have friends from all walks of life. No, I don't. I interact with people from all walks of life.
You maintain relationships with people from all walks of life.
Thank you. Yes, that's a better word.
And that's the difference with me. Like, I can discuss at length the bleeding edge of technology, 17th century French poetry, and rebuilding a diff centre on an E.H. Holden.
And bogan shit that's in the news.
That's
kind of Facebooky stuff. I'm happy to have a conversation about weird shit. Like, if you're into 17th century embroidery, happy days. Tell me all about it.
Yeah, I'm interested in art, and I'm mostly interested in asking questions, and I'm mostly interested in hearing about your experiences, including some guy that stacks shelves in Woolworths, and it's like, oh yeah, how much work you got on, mate? Oh, okay, cool. How does that work? Like, I'm genuinely interested.
Yeah.
Like I'm genuinely interested.
Are you seeing a difference in the attitude of people coming in? Because I reckon there is. What do you think?
Where are you from? How long have you been doing that? Oh, that's interesting. Where'd you go? Like, and
what's your plan?
Yeah.
Is that a full-time thing? Like, because generally Nightfield people are, well, where I'm from, they're on the road to something else.
Yeah, what else are you doing? And I was going to say, like, where are you from and which school did you go to? But if I do ask those questions, I'm interested in finding out...
What you're studying.
Especially if you've got a bit of a tan, like... Where
are you? Yes, everyone who works a menial job here is from somewhere else.
Yeah, like, where are you from? Oh, okay, where are you from originally? Oh, shit, when did you come over? Oh, okay. Like, all those sort of things. Like, and I'm genuinely interested in those sorts of things.
I'd be saying, when was the last... Like, is your family here? Like...
Yeah. Which, I guess the point I mentioned that is, like, you're not sitting here going, look, unless you make $400,000 a year, I'm not interested in talking to you. Like, no, it's not absolutely not the case. I don't talk to anybody with less than a postgraduate education. Like, no, of course not, absolutely not. And we can maintain.
I wouldn't be talking to anyone.
I wouldn't be talking to you.
No. I do not have a postgraduate education.
No, you do kinda.
Sorta.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's about attitude. Yeah, maybe perhaps.
Yeah, so maybe it's about attitude. But anyway, and the attitude
character
in a lot of places here
is poor.
Is really, really, really poor. And you try and when you do try and,
I'm not sure if it's Tassie based though.
I'm not sure either. I just think in Sydney or Melbourne or somewhere bigger, you've just got
more.
There's the same percentage of fish, but there's just a lot more fish overall. But because which is a fair point, because we didn't really maintain friendly relationships with other couples so much when we were back home. But I would argue you had family, and you had
work.
School friends, and you had work, and you had all those other things which you can sort of carve out so that is the point. So you come down here and you're missing those that sort of social scaffolding, and you're looking to replace it.
But as I said to you, I've got a couple of things which I've organised. Like, I have monthly virtual catch-up video things with family and a couple of friends, and those two friends I would see in person. And
in every other case, we can just at any time just go back there.
Yeah, but here I don't have any. So.
And we're saying there's no reason why you shouldn't, apart from the fact that, the podcast, are we obnoxious? Or or it's a case of, or is everyone here just
Not interested.
not interested?
We're going to have to wrap this up. I
Yeah.
need to go and pee. Sorry.
Not having
Too much
enough time.
information.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know if we actually got to the point of what we were meant to talk about here. Hold that thought.
Wrap it up, Terry. There we go.
Oh, and we're back.
I feel better.
Bladder emptied as we
Yes.
continue this pointless conversation. And now I've completely forgotten what we were
I didn't
talking
interrupt
about.
you. You can't blame me.
No,
this time.
I won't interrupt you about that. I won't blame you for that. Oh, Jesus Christ. It'll come to us in a second. Give me a moment. I had it the moment until we turned the camera on. And then it went out.
Are we trying to round things up?
We were kind of in sort of saying that. So again, the whole point of it. So what were we talking about before we actually even started on camera? What was the main? Did we cover all the main points? Because we're just talking about. It's just odd trying to find, and it's coming back to me now. It's just odd trying to find acquaintances or relationships down here, starting from scratch when you've got absolutely no cultural shared experiences, really, because Tasmania is very different to Australia when it comes to that, I think, or at least the part of it that we're in is very different to the part that we were in, and that and the reason why we're doing it, I think, which we've teased out, correct me if I'm wrong in a tick, is because you are replacing all of these relationships that were close by because they've just been built over the last 40 odd years, and you're wondering, why do I keep wanting to do things like wanting to meet people down here and all the rest of it? It's because you don't have that down here.
And by cultural as well, do you mean, because I was going to say the normal stuff that people talk about, i.e. job, house, kids?
No, what I mean cultural, like different cultural Tasmania. I don't know where anything is here. I haven't been anywhere here.
People get annoyed with me here when
Yeah.
I go, oh, I've never heard of that. Where's that?
Yeah.
And it's like down the road. But again, they're not good at advertising stuff here either. So it's like, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, well, if you keep it a secret,
Yeah.
then it's not unreasonable that I don't know about it. But I think it's the cultural, and that's where I keep talking about cultural differences.
Insular.
No,
Or is that because they've already established their 40-year-old?
yeah, because
Things and I'm not in
you've come into their society, and the society is a bit different here.
Yeah.
You've come into their society, and you don't have any of the cultural background
No.
that they have in terms of knowing. And I'll give you some examples.
People, for starters.
Who the people are, what TV shows you used to watch when you were a kid. It's all different here. We had one TV station. Well, I think they had two. Like all those sorts of things, when you start talking to people, it's just like you don't have much cultural common ground, especially when they haven't been anywhere. If you're dealing with ones that haven't been anywhere.
Yeah.
But that alone, that's where you just wash your hands and you just go, because you just have to go, yeah, we're probably not going to get along because we don't have any cultural connections. That being said, you go to France and you don't have that either with people. But is there a cultural difference in another country? At least you're very interesting then. Maybe that's the answer. Because
you're interested in the other country.
You're interested in them, they're interested in you.
And there's usually an expat community.
Yeah. Whereas here, they're not interested in you. And
You're not interested in them.
You're not particularly interested in them.
And there's no expat community.
Yeah. Which I've often
thought about starting.
Joked about. And it would be interesting. And I said there are communities here like that. Like there are Facebook communities that are getting to Tassie focused, but there are none here being in Tassie focused for people who have come here. So
it'd have to be an in-person thing, because there's no way someone would come into a Facebook group and take screenshots of shit that I say and completely and utterly take me out of context. Not that I give a shit, but
who cares?
I'm not interested in more online relationships. It'd be an in real life thing.
Which I suppose there is a point there in terms of if you're not interested, because if you were interested in online relationships,
the world is your oyster.
locality doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So
I don't even know, like, because again, I don't even know, like. So yeah, I was in a book club for a bit, but I was the odd one out in terms of. They're all Tasmanian. Oh no, there was another chick. Anyway, I don't know. I was just going to say, I don't even know how you'd go about doing that.
I was going to raise 2 points. Well, now I'm going to raise 2 points. I was going to raise 1 point. The point I'll raise to that is that, which isn't you, is that you need to find that person and then the ones you've described, and then go and make an effort to go and befriend them.
Yeah.
And that's not really you. And the other thing I was going to say, to make sure I finish a point when I say there's 2 points, is that maybe we've just got too much time on our hands.
Too much navel gazing?
Yeah. We enjoy the company of our neighbours, right? By and large. And
so I've got a handful of people that I enjoy the company of here.
And there are
that's usually my MO.
But we have so much time. We've got too much time on our hands. Like, do you want to go and do this? Oh, I can't because of this, this, and this. And they're allowed to say no.
That's the only thing that we're kind of missing, though, is dinner partner, dinner people.
Yeah.
Everything else is fine.
Yeah. Which is a cultural thing that we used to do a lot in Sydney.
Yes.
So there you go. Maybe we've figured something out.
I think we might have.
So we just have to join some sort of dinner party club. And let me make a point. Can I? Make yours and let me make one back.
We have done that here on multiple occasions, and there's been no reciprocation. So
yes,
it might
absolutely.
not be a thing. So I think people can't be from here.
And you know what the point is, as we continue to work on this, which is working quite well, I think, is bullshit. It used to be. When I was at UTAS, we did dinner parties all the time.
Right. So again, maybe it's a change in culture / society. They don't do dinner parties anymore.
Or maybe it was everybody at the university had too much time on their hands and was overeducated.
There is that. Don't know.
So it's a class difference.
There are pockets of people in Launceston that have class and a fuck ton more money than us.
Small pocket, but yes.
So,
The ones that have more money than us typically have a lot more money than us.
Oh, yeah. But again, the shit that they go to, like Rotary and that kind of stuff, it's like, I can't think of anything worse. Like, I don't know. No, thank you.
So what we're looking for is 40-somethings childless... Oh, yeah. 40-something childless, well-heeled...
Educated.
Well-educated, antisocial people. Which is like the old Bill Hicks joke. It was just like, the people who hate people party is like, will there be meetings? I ain't fucking coming. It's like, we're having trouble getting it off the ground. Would you like to come to our meetings? Fuck off.
Any club that would have me a member I don't want to be a part of.
Pretty much. So anyway, that's interesting. But anyway, back to the UTAS thing for a second. It's like, yeah, they did have. There was like the Queen Bee who you've met, and I told her to get fucked the last time I spoke to her. She used to organise. That's
my other problem. You don't go into my brain. Like, you're superfluous.
You know who I'm talking about. It's the one that kind of offered me, which I can say, the one that sort of said, "Can you come and help us?" And I said, "Sure." And then I got into.
I've never met that person.
Weren't you at the markets with me when I bumped into them?
Again,
yeah, maybe.
probably.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Anyway, she was quite Queen Bee-ish,
right?
And organised those sorts of things.
Again,
and those
you need
sort of things.
that person.
And you're it,
and
you don't have,
and I don't have anyone to organise.
In other news, we're going to get some sheep.
In Sydney, I have plenty of people to organise.
Yeah, to boss people around.
It's not bossing, it's just that...
Do you want to do this?
I want to do this, and I'm going to organise it for us.
You'd have to see, again, if we're going to be old-fashioned, and funnily enough, they keep saying it's old-fashioned here, but I don't see any...
I think I am old-fashioned.
Yeah, but where's the supper club?
Is there... They say there's a supper club.
I'm sure... Well, those are things that used to exist back in the 1940s. And you probably find, because this in a lot of ways still is the 1940s, you'd find that.
I'm going to do some digging.
But the problem of it is, we're obnoxious assholes, so we'd go to that sort of thing. And if they're talking about, they want to talk about cheese for 4 hours.
They're obnoxious assholes as well.
They are, but they're a different kind of obnoxious asshole. You're going to go and listen to somebody talk about cheese for 4 hours, I don't know. You'd have to try it.
Why would they be talking about cheese for 4 hours?
I've been to some pretty dry things like that.
Right. That's when you excuse yourself to go to the bathroom,
And-
or I need to
and
go and
leave.
get another drink or something. And
I'm
then
sorry,
you-
my shoe is filling up with blood. And then you just leave.
And then you slowly,
Yeah.
like Homer going back into the hedge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so the thing again, it is a thing, but it's funny. Like we did see that couple that, unfortunately, it's where I keep saying there's a spivvy element as well, because there's definitely been couples that have approached us.
Oh,
and,
yes.
and
nothing
talked,
comes of it.
and nothing comes of it because they're spivvy and they're full of shit, and it's like, because you can say, yeah, make a time, make a date. There was the gay couple.
Yes, and they moved.
And they moved.
And we haven't managed to catch up with them in Sydney.
And we haven't managed to catch up with them. But again, they were the gay version of us.
Well,
Doctor and an executive.
I'll say gay people are our market because, and older people and people with money.
More time on their hands,
Because
no kids.
usually no kids, time on their hands, money.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's fine, and I enjoy their company, and we do have a few, like 2 gay couples we can think of off the top of our heads that we get along with, which is all fine, but sometimes it would be nice to actually have
Peers.
genuine peers,
Yeah.
where you do have again, it doesn't make that much difference, I guess, but I mean, there's a whole heap of shit there that we can't relate to.
And ditto, vice versa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it would be nice to date within your own species occasionally.
Yeah.
And because that's the thing, because often, as you mentioned before, like right now you mentioned, gay couples we've got a lot of, older couples we've got a lot of thing in. And we did have an older couple here, and they haven't reciprocated, and I got the impression that it was like we were a bit too much, and I don't know if we were or not. But that's where, because they're not actually peers. Like there's a generational difference there. Like they're baby boomers and we're Gen X.
Yeah.
And wealthy, obnoxious Gen Xers and retired baby boomers are, whilst we have a lot of those, no kids anymore and can afford to do things and have the time to do it. They're still,
Again, we don't fit.
I wasn't alive in the 60s.
We don't fit. Because the people like our age, they're all still in the kid phase and they haven't got there yet.
Yeah. And I never did. I never did fit, ever.
No, I'm not really.
Not once.
No, same.
Not once. You did, I'd say you fit more, apart from the intelligence bit, you fit more in your 20s than I did. You did much more standard things in the 20s when it was reasonable for you to live at home still and do all those sorts of things and go and live in London and do all that sort of shit. So I think in your 20s you made perfect sense. You made no sense whatsoever in your 30s and you continue to not make any sense in your 40s.
Yeah.
But where I was different was like, I have to go back and do the maths. I keep saying 19, but I think I was 20. But anyway, I owned a house at 20. And yeah, it was definitely 20. Yeah, I owned a house at 20. It wasn't 19. I was starting to look at 19, and I went and got a good job enough because I was like, I want a house.
Yeah.
Because I fucking hate being told what to do, and somebody else having the ability to change where you live at a whim
Was a big deal for you.
was a big deal for me.
Yeah.
So it's like, right, I need a house. What do I need to do to get a house? I need a decent job. Okay, I need to go and get a decent job. How do I get a decent job? I need a decent education. And then just work back and then, right, okay, and I'm at that point and let's get there as quickly as possible. And I went from that point to there in 3 years.
Yeah.
And then I was dealing with people that they were all still they were starting to entering a I want to buy a cool car phase. And it's just like,
Wow.
you can't, well, these days you can live in it.
You can.
But like, I'd at least get a van where I could put a mattress in it, because that's where you're
But
going
they
to end
weren't
up.
even buying. Well, I suppose you had a mortgage too. But I was going to say, most of the people that I know that had a cool car in 20s, they didn't even own it. They were
didn't.
paying it off.
Yeah, they didn't even own the steering wheel.
No.
I certainly owned the cars I had back then.
Although I did have a new car in my 20s, and I was paying it
Yeah,
off.
me too. me too. Well, I bought the house first and then I bought the new car.
And that was one of the first questions I asked when I went in to get it. Are there any, what were they, I can't even remember what they were called there, paying it off in advance penalties. Yeah. Because I wanted to, I think my loan was like 5 years and I had decided that I was paying it off in 12 to 18 months and I did. So, and they used to penalise you for early repayment.
They just wouldn't let you.
Yeah. No.
Either way, we're
$500 extra because you've paid it off early.
Which is fine. Yeah, we're going to get this much interest out of you.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that. You borrow.
And that was why I went with.
I'm borrowing 20.
NAB, of all people, was the only one that wouldn't penalise me if I paid it off early.
Yeah.
But yeah, different. Yeah, just different.
So from that point of view, I've always been different, and because I remember it was like where I sort of said when I tell people would ask me questions and they would get the shits with the answer. And I'd just go, you asked and I'm giving you an answer. Like, do you want me to lie? Because I remember coming back from Copenhagen. It's 1997, and I went for a drink. I lived in Braemar, but for whatever reason I stopped at the George on the way back in Picton and popped in for a drink, and it was like a school reunion. Half the people I went to school with sit there. And I was sitting there and I was having a drink, and I wasn't big-noting myself. I, with a hand on my heart, and somebody asked, what have you been up to? And I said, I'm just on the way back from the airport now. And it's like, where have you been? I said, I've been in Copenhagen. What for? Work. And they're going, you did not. And I went, okay, I didn't.
Yeah. But what can you do with that too? Like, nothing. And
you just... And
if you argue, you're the arsehole.
Completely. And it's like, remember how I was the really nerdy kid in high school that everyone thought would be a millionaire? Well, I'm on the way. Like... And which it never bothered me then, but it was hilarious because I can, again with my memory, I can remember back then I was thinking this will be different when I'm in my 40s. And
really?
Well, 20-year-old Bradley, it ain't.
No.
It's exactly the fucking same.
But again, that comes back to attitude and character, because if someone had said that to me, I'm just back from Copenhagen, bing, 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 I've never been to Copenhagen.
Tell me about
Copenhagen. Yep. What's that like? Cool. Who'd you fly with? What was the food like on the plane? Like
KLM, terrible.
All that kind of shit.
I got free gin though.
Was the weather good? Like, what season were you in? Cold, hot? What are Copenhagen people like?
The opposite one we're in now.
Yeah. Which I still haven't been to Copenhagen.
Yeah, no, we'll take you. We'll go.
But,
yeah, so...
But I had a little bit of that when I came back from Canada. I didn't fit. It took me... I think I was talking about this to Legs the other day. It took me 6 months to get a job when I came back from Canada, and I was freaking out because that was the longest time I've ever not had a job. Because I just walk into employment normally.
So
and 6 months of sending my CV out, and I had to tweak my CV because I fudged the truth because I had a gap in there that no one understood, that I just went travelling. Full stop. I didn't go working holiday. I didn't do it. Like, I just decided I don't want to work anymore. I have enough money, and I went travelling for a bit. And I came back with this whopping great gap, and they couldn't figure it out why I wasn't working. So, yeah, that's the only time where I'm like, oh, this is. I think.
But that's where you and I are the same, where you don't fit in the box, and you know. So yeah, anyway, it's interesting. So I guess, in summary, to wrap this up, thereabouts, it's like, yeah, it's just an interesting thing, and to be on point with this podcast, it would be great if we could say this all in 15 minutes instead of a rambling hour plus. But it's like, yeah, it's just interesting being here and being different and trying to make friends, and looking at and trying to work out why it doesn't seem to work very well. And it can't all be us, I'm sure, and I'm happy to say, I'm sure it mostly is.
We are an acquired taste.
We are polarising.
And that too.
And we've definitely seen that in the bar and in doing business locally. Because, especially when we do business, in Sydney terms, we're not that cutthroat. No. Down here, we're vicious and brutal, apparently. Where it's just like, I want to do this, oh no, we don't want to do that, and I go, well, I disagree, and then they come back at something, it's like, no, we've had that discussion, and it's done now, time's moved on. And they're like, Oh, but it's just like, well, if that was if that was you negotiating, well, don't do that again with somebody like me.
And back to my point, if you tell me a time, a place, and something should occur, if it doesn't occur, that window has gone.
Yeah, and from now on, you're unreliable, and if you're unreliable, you are dead to me.
Yeah, no, sorry.
It would actually be if you prove yourself to be unreliable to me, and this works in Sydney, if this works in anywhere.
Yeah.
It's like it would be preferable for me if you were dead, because then I'd at least know where to send flowers. And I really mean it.
I don't think about it like that. I just go, nope, next.
Oh yeah, there's nope next straight after that, but like that initial, well, that's unfortunate. Oh God, was it cancer? Okay, and bye. So yeah, is that why we're? Anyway, so that's the point with is why.
If you do turn up on time and do the thing that I'm asking, I will pay your bill within 30 seconds, and I will use you again, and I will recommend you to people because you have done a job well done.
And we're getting off point, but that's the whole idea of we've found ourselves to be polarising down here, and none of that really comes into more personal relationships.
Yeah, so I'm going to...
Because there's lots of...
I want this supper club. I'm going to have a look for that.
It's going to come back next time. You lying son of a bitch! If there's no supper club.
What is supper?
That's
after dinner, isn't it? Late.
That is a cultural difference, and that word means tea, dinner, and supper means very different things in different states within this country, different places within each state, and different places in the West. So in Tasmania, I don't know.
Dinner is tea here. I know that much.
So what I would call...
Go out for tea. Go out for dinner.
Yeah. Dinner in jail is lunch. Like, that's the point I'm...
Oh, God, really?
Yeah.
You would know that because you associate with bogans who've done time.
Which is why... Which reinforces my earlier point of I do not have airs and graces and can discuss a wide variety of topics up to and including what was the food like in Silverwater, because
wow.
shit, I've heard the plumbing's worse in Long Bay, but the food's better.
Jesus.
Because half the kids I went to school with went to fucking jail.
Jesus. Oh God.
And you've known plenty of people that I know and know well that have done serious time.
Yes, I know.
One for killing someone.
Yes, I know.
So yeah, it happens. But well, I was just going to say what a supper club means to me is that it is some sort of
evening digestives.
Some sort of evening gathering where there is comestibles
with a velvet coat and a cravat.
You're not helping. But that part of it worked out well. Yeah, but anyway, so we've rambled the whole time. It was like, quick, let's get on camera because what we're actually talking about seems to be interesting, on point, and succinct. And then we had our...
You started yelling at your Mac. Derailed it.
It did. Unfortunately. Momentum. But anyway, that's the thing that's interesting. So yeah, I wonder if attitudes seem to be different here, and I don't know how compatible we are with that, and we are, and as I sort of saying, compared to going to a foreign country, you're not. Tasmanians don't want mainlanders here by and large.
No.
And you have to accept that, and that's why they're not interested really in.
They're very ingrained in their own social circles, and they don't seem to leave them.
Well, when you're talking about, like where I was sort of talking about social scaffolding, there's an awful lot of social scaffolding here because everybody's related to each other.
Well, that was the other thing. Everyone knows everyone. And
yep. It's a small place.
Yeah. It's like a small town. It is a small town.
Tasmania is a small town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I don't care to get involved in the local politics or the the gossip mongering and stuff too. I'm like, I don't care. I'm not interested. I don't have 40 years of history to go through, which is probably another reason why.
Which we'd already discussed, which is, you don't have those cultural touchstones.
Supper club. I want it. Again, I'm going to have to be the one that organises it.
But we do have...
and then I'll get annoyed because I'm the one organising it.
And hilariously, we do have an upcoming potential couple that wants to come and
Well, yeah.
and have and there is some scope that possibly there may be some.
They could be my first members of my supper club.
I'm not suggesting for an instant that you start
kidding.
one.
I'm kidding.
But hey, we've got a venue.
Not our bar.
We're not
All
doing
right.
that.
I need to go and get some
absolutely.
click and collect groceries.
So anyway, complete rambling, and no need to summarise again for the 18th time. So off you go, my children. Watch out for wolves. And as we continue to try and muddle through the social pitfalls of northern Tasmania.
Press stop, for fuck's sake. Jesus Christ. Stop talking.